This assignment is a multi-week assignment that's done individually, where you're going to dig a lot deeper into the population that you have selected to focus for this semester. Now, we've had students in the past who choose a population with which they belong. That's no problem at all. This is going to help you dig a little deeper and a little wider as well into commonalities among individuals in the vulnerable population. Now, the weeks 1 and 2 section, here in the beginning, that's been addressed earlier in the semester. If you have not already done that portion, please go in and do that now. There's further instructions on this in the week 1 assignment page. Now, under contributing factors and their impact of needs, it's recommended for week 4. The whole assignment isn't due until the end of week 5, but putting the whole thing off until the end can be a large quantity of work trying to cram in at the last minute. So it's recommended that you do this first portion during week 5. You need to go in and look at the Healthy People 2020 Social Determinants of Health page and make sure to identify specific determinants of health that could present a barrier for your population and give a little explanation. This does not need to be incredibly long. As we look at the bottom in a few minutes as far as the structuring, this is mostly you doing a voiceover of PowerPoint. So this does not need to be an incredibly wordy slide, but you can give a little explanation in that as well. The second one, so indicating specific concerns that disproportionately affect your population. Different populations have different concerns that are common amongst the population as a whole. And so for some of those it may be physical, some it's psychosocial, some it's economic. So please go in and specify what concerns there are disproportionately affecting your specific population. Also, you're going to be doing a root cause analysis. If you go to this link, it'll take you to a website that explains more about root cause analysis. But you're looking for at least one root cause associated with the health disparities within your population. So this gets into, why is this population vulnerable? This is not the cause of a person being in this population. So for example, if a person has visual limitations, what we're looking for isn't that could be based on fetal development, that could be based on accident, injury, that kind of thing. We're looking at, if a person has a visual impairment, how does that make them at a higher risk for health disparity? So what makes them more vulnerable within the health system because of that visual limitation? The next thing you're going to do is look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, again, there are individuals within all these populations and a wide variety of leveling, but what you're going to look at is, if you were to do a Venn diagram with the majority of individuals, what is a shared experience among individuals within your population, and how does that look compared to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? So you need to explain what tiers have been met, which tiers have not been met, and then based on the evaluation, what is the overall anticipated functional level for this population, and what does this mean in terms of likely health outcomes for individuals in this population? And notice on these you need to give some explanation as well. Now, in week 5, we're looking at specific health concerns. For these specific health concerns, much of this comes from very specific information, and therefore you would need to have references and citations. This first one, it asks, is the population at higher risk for communicable diseases or infections? Now, your population may have very specific infections and diseases that are much more common, or it may just be an overall higher risk for communicable diseases based on, for example, being in a shared living environment, such as in incarcerated populations. If they are at a higher risk for communicable diseases or infections, you need to specify which ones and what can be done to decrease the transmission or acquisition of these conditions. Second, you're going to look at, is the population at a higher risk for non-communicable diseases or conditions? So same type of thing. We're looking here at things like heart disease or diabetes, other than non-communicable diseases. If so, please tell which ones, and talk about what can be done to prevent or manage these conditions. Because these often get into specifics, if you give very precise information, please make sure you pull that in with your proper citation and your reference. Now, these next two can be a little more personal, particularly if you've selected a population that you that you personally affiliate with or belong to, or that is very close to you, friends and family. These two questions can often be a little more challenging to answer. If that is the case for you, please reach out to your professor or your instructor and let them know. And we are pretty good about being able to work with people and in being able to answer that. But these two prompts are, is this population at a high risk for self-care deficit and or self-harm, intentional or unintentional? And that does include self-harm and suicide. So please make sure you address that with your population. If so, what can be done to mitigate this harm or reduce it? And then, is the population at higher risk for being harmed by others and or harming others? And if so, what can be done to mitigate this harm or reduce it? So with each of these prompts, you'll notice if you go down here to the assignment directions, again, talks about you doing this individually, you're creating a presentation that's less than 10 minutes long. When you do this, make sure all your references are within the last 5 years. Make sure they're reputable. But once you find your information, you're going to be putting it onto a PowerPoint presentation first, and there's a template here you can use. In this template, each one of the prompts listed above is a separate slide. You can combine slides, you can take one slide or one prompt and make 2 or 3 slides on it, kind of whatever's appropriate for your population. And if you don't use the template, that is fine. It just gives you a starting point. Feel free to get creative, change formats. Just make sure that all the content is included. Once you go in and you make your PowerPoint presentation, then you will go in and you can use a program such as Screencast-O-Matic, which is actually the one that is used to record these videos right now. It is free, and so you can use other multimedia platforms as well, but Screencast-O-Matic is free. And what you can do down here is a tutorial video, but you can choose the exact part of your screen that will be showing. And so, for example, you can have your PowerPoint slides up on your screen, and then as you speak, it will capture your voice over those slides. And so it makes one continuous video. And so that's what you'll be submitting, is the link to that continuous video at the end. So if you have any questions on that, please let us know. Please make sure that your slides are not incredibly heavy in text. That's why you have the opportunity to do the voiceover, so that you can give a little more explanation, a little more backstory to what's being seen on the slides. Please look down here and you can see what is required as far as the rubric goes, so that you know what is expected. It's worth 10 points, which is 10%.